Maya Chen floated through the darkness of space, her salvage pod humming softly around her. She had been working in the asteroid belt for 3 years now, cutting apart old satellites and dead ships for scrap metal. It was lonely work, but it paid well enough to keep her independent. Today was supposed to be just another routine job. Her scanner had picked up a distress beacon coming from deep inside a large asteroid, probably another mining accident from decades ago. Maya sighed and fired her thrusters, guiding her small ship toward the signal. As she got closer, something felt wrong. The beacon was old. Very old. Her computer showed it had been transmitting for almost 200 years. Maya's heart began to beat faster. Anything that old could be valuable, or dangerous, or both. She landed on the asteroid's surface and activated her cutting laser. The rock was thick, but after an hour of careful work, she broke through into a massive hollow space inside. Maya's jaw dropped at what she saw. A ship. Not just any ship, but an enormous vessel, easily 3 times the size of a modern military cruiser. Its hull was painted with faded blue and white colors, and along the side, she could barely read the name. Valiant Dawn. Maya's mind raced. The Valiant Dawn was famous in history books. It was a colony ship that had vanished 200 years ago during humanity's first attempts to settle distant star systems. Over 3,000 people had been on board. The disappearance had been one of the great mysteries of early space exploration. And now she had found it. Maya guided her pod inside through an open docking bay. Emergency lights flickered on automatically as she entered, responding to her movement. The ship still had power. That was impossible. No fusion reactor could run for 2 centuries without maintenance. She stepped out of her pod, her magnetic boots clicking against the metal floor. The air was stale, but breathable. Life support was still working. Maya moved carefully through the corridors, her flashlight cutting through the darkness. Everything was clean, organized, and completely empty. No bodies, no signs of struggle, no bloodstains or damage. It was like everyone had simply walked off the ship and never came back. But that wasn't the strangest part. As Maya explored deeper, she began to notice things that didn't belong on a colony ship. Weapon mounting points along the hull, reinforced blast doors, shield generator housings that looked far too advanced for 200-year-old technology. Someone had converted this colony ship into a warship. Maya's curiosity pulled her toward the captain's quarters. The door opened smoothly, and inside, she found a room frozen in time. A desk, a bed, personal photos on the walls showing a smiling man with his family. This must have been Captain Rivera's room. On the desk sat a small metal case with a glass front. Inside was a piece of paper, preserved perfectly. Maya carefully opened the case and pulled out the note. It was handwritten in careful, old-fashioned script. Her hands trembled slightly as she began to read. To whoever finds us, if you are reading this, then you have found the Valiant Dawn. We did not abandon this ship. We did not die in an accident. We completed our mission, and then we hid. 2 years into our colony mission, we found something terrible. We discovered that humanity is not alone in the galaxy, and we are not safe. There are others out here, powerful and ancient. They call themselves the Gardeners. These aliens have been watching humanity for centuries. Every time we get too advanced, too strong, too close to the truth, they make us disappear. Colonies vanish. Scientists die in accidents. Research stations go silent. It has happened again and again, and no one noticed the pattern. We noticed. We found proof. And we found one of their ships. We spent 2 years learning their technology and turning our colony ship into something that could fight back. But we are not enough. We are just one ship, one crew. We cannot save humanity alone. So we hid. We left this ship here for you. For the future. For when humanity needs it most. Below are coordinates. Follow them if you are brave. But only go if humanity is ready to stop being prey and start being predators. The gardeners are watching. They are always watching. Captain James Rivera, 2187. Below the message were star coordinates and a simple phrase. 12 ships hidden. Find them all. Maya's hands shook as she lowered the note. This changed everything. If this was real, if the captain was telling the truth, then humanity had been manipulated for centuries and never knew it. She heard a soft sound behind her and spun around. A wall panel had opened, revealing a computer terminal that glowed with soft blue light. Text appeared on the screen, typed by some automatic system that had waited 200 years to deliver its message. The words made Maya's blood run cold. Welcome, Finder. You have 3 years to prepare. The next culling begins in 2390. They are coming for us again. Use this ship. Find the others. Save our species. The screen went dark. Maya stood alone in the silent captain's quarters, holding a 200-year-old note that told her humanity's survival depended on what she did next. She looked around at the empty ship, at the hidden weapons, at the impossible technology. She had come looking for scrap metal. Instead, she had found a war that humanity didn't even know it was fighting. Maya carefully folded the note and put it in her pocket. She had a lot of work to do, and apparently, not much time to do it. The Valiant Dawn had been waiting for someone to find it. That someone was her. Maya spent 3 days searching every corner of the Valiant Dawn. She found weapons that shouldn't exist, engines that ran on principles she didn't understand, and enough supplies to support a crew of hundreds. But she found no answers about the gardeners or what they wanted. Captain Rivera's note had mentioned coordinates. Maya finally entered them into the ship's navigation computer. The system came alive, displaying a route to an unmarked location 12 light-years away. The computer labeled it simply, Archive Station Alpha. Maya knew she should report this discovery to the authorities. The Space Salvage Bureau would pay millions for a find like this. But the captain's note had been clear about one thing. The gardeners had infiltrated humanity. If she told the wrong people, she might disappear just like Captain Rivera had. She made her decision. She would go to the coordinates alone. The Valiant Dawn was too large for one person to pilot safely, so Maya took her salvage pod and programmed the Battlecruiser to remain hidden in the asteroid. She plotted a careful course to the mysterious coordinates, taking routes that avoided major shipping lanes and military patrols. The journey took 2 weeks. When Maya finally arrived at the location, her scanner showed nothing but empty space. She was about to turn back when her computer detected a faint energy signature. Something was out there, hidden by advanced stealth technology. Maya broadcast the access code she had found in Captain Rivera's files. Slowly, like a ghost materializing from nowhere, a space station appeared before her. It was small, maybe the size of a large warehouse, and completely automated. No life signs, no crew, just machines that had been running silently for 2 centuries. She docked carefully and entered through an airlock that opened automatically. The station's interior was cold and dark, but power still flowed through its systems. Maya found a main computer terminal in what looked like a research center. Dozens of screens surrounded a central chair. She sat down and activated the system. The screens blazed to life, flooding the room with blue light. A voice spoke, making her jump. Welcome, authorized user. This is Archive Station Alpha. All data regarding the Gardener threat is available for review. Maya's fingers flew across the keyboard. Files began to open, and what she read made her feel sick to her stomach. The Gardeners were an alliance of 7 ancient alien species. They had controlled this region of the galaxy for over 50,000 years. They didn't conquer primitive species directly. Instead, they managed them like farmers managing crops. The files showed a clear pattern. Whenever a young civilization reached certain technological milestones, the gardeners intervened. Sometimes they caused plagues. Sometimes they manufactured wars. Sometimes they simply made key people and resources vanish. The civilization would collapse or stagnate, setting them back decades or centuries. Then the gardeners would swoop in, offering help and technology in exchange for the species becoming a client state. These client species became dependent on gardener support and never developed the ability to threaten their masters. Maya found records of dozens of species that had been pruned this way. The gardeners called it cultivation. They believed they were helping younger species by guiding their development. In reality, they were keeping potential rivals weak and dependent. Humanity had been pruned 7 times in the past 300 years. Maya read the files with growing horror. The mysterious plague that killed Mars colony in 2143. The disappearance of the research fleet studying faster than light travel in 2198. The collapse of the Titan research station in 2267. All of them had been gardener operations. Captain Rivera's logs explained how the Valiant Dawn had discovered this truth. They had responded to a distress call from what they thought was another human ship. Instead, they found a damaged gardener vessel, its crew dead from some kind of internal accident. Rivera and his team had boarded it and recovered its computer core. The data inside had revealed everything. The gardeners' methods, their technology, their schedule for humanity's next pruning. Rivera had made the difficult decision to abandon the colony mission and focus on preparing for what was coming. His crew had spent 2 years retrofitting the Valiant Dawn with gardener technology. They had also discovered something crucial. The gardeners weren't invincible. They were powerful, but they were also complacent. They had been using the same tactics for thousands of years because those tactics always worked. Rivera had realized that humanity needed time to prepare, time to grow strong enough to resist. So he had hidden the Valiant Dawn and 11 other ships his crew had secretly built using recovered gardener technology. Each ship was placed in a different hidden location, waiting for someone to find them. Maya scrolled through more files and found construction blueprints, technical manuals, and tactical analyses. Everything needed to understand and fight the gardeners was here. Then she found the final file. It was labeled Current Status and dated just 3 months ago. The station's automated systems had been monitoring gardener communications. Maya opened the file and her heart sank. The next culling wasn't scheduled for 2390, as the Valiant Dawn's message had said. The gardeners had moved up their timeline. New surveillance data showed humanity was advancing faster than expected. They were worried humans might discover the truth. The culling was scheduled to begin in 3 months. Manufactured plagues were already being prepared. Key human colonies and research stations had been marked for elimination. Within 6 months, humanity would be set back a century or more. Maya sat in the darkness, surrounded by the evidence of a conspiracy that had controlled human destiny for generations. She was just one person, a salvage mechanic who barely understood half of what she was reading. How could she possibly stop something like this? But then she remembered Captain Rivera's words. He had been just one person too, just a colony ship captain. But he had chosen to fight. He had given humanity a chance. Maya made her decision. She copied all the files onto her personal drive and set the station to broadcast an emergency signal. Not to authorities, but to a private frequency used by independent salvagers and freight runners. People who lived on the edges of society, who didn't trust governments, who might believe an impossible story. She needed help. She needed a crew. And she needed to find those 11 other hidden battlecruisers. The gardeners thought they could prune humanity again, just like they had done for centuries. But this time, humanity would be ready. This time, humans would fight back. Maya returned to her pod and began the journey back to the Valiant Dawn. She had 3 months to assemble a resistance against an enemy that had controlled the galaxy for 50,000 years. It seemed impossible. But humans had always been good at doing impossible things. Maya knew she couldn't do this alone. She needed people she could trust. People who wouldn't ask too many questions and wouldn't run to the authorities. There was only one person who fit that description. Marcus Webb had been Maya's captain 5 years ago when she worked on a freight hauler called the Iron Sparrow. He was a former military pilot who had left the service after questioning too many orders. Now he ran a small independent shipping company with a crew of misfits, veterans, and people who preferred to stay off government records. Maya sent him an encrypted message. Found something big. Need your help. Come alone. She included coordinates to a neutral meeting point, far from any official stations. 3 days later, Marcus arrived in his battered freight ship. He was a tall man in his 50s, with gray hair and suspicious eyes. When Maya showed him the evidence from Archive Station Alpha, she watched his face carefully. Most people would have called her crazy. Marcus just nodded slowly. I always knew something was wrong, he said. Too many accidents. Too many coincidences. But I never imagined this. Will you help me? Maya asked. Marcus looked at the star charts showing the locations of the hidden battlecruisers. You're asking me to start a war against aliens we can't see, using ships we don't know how to fly, with a crew we don't have yet. He smiled grimly. When do we start? Over the next 2 weeks, they carefully recruited others. A weapons specialist named Sarah Chen, who had lost her brother in the Titan station collapse. A pilot called Jackson, who was too good for legal work. An engineer named Dmitri, who loved solving impossible problems. A medic. A navigator. 2 more mechanics. And 3 former soldiers who missed having a real mission. By the end of the month, they had a crew of 23 people aboard the Valiant Dawn. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Captain Rivera's files had included clues about where the other battlecruisers were hidden. The first one was easy. It was concealed inside a hollowed-out moon, orbiting a gas giant, in an abandoned system. When they found it, the ship looked identical to the Valiant Dawn. They named it the Rising Storm. The second ship was harder to locate. It was buried under 300 meters of ice on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. Dmitri and his engineering team spent 4 days carefully excavating it without attracting attention from the mining colonies on the other side of the moon. They called this one the Breaking Dawn. The third ship was hidden inside a massive comet that was slowly drifting through deep space. Finding it required solving a riddle that Captain Rivera had left in his files. Jackson cracked the code, and they pulled the ship free from its icy tomb. They named it the Thunderchild. With 4 battlecruisers now under their control, Maya began to feel hopeful. But then strange things started happening. A salvage crew that had been working near their excavation site on Europa died in what officials called a tragic equipment malfunction. A survey ship from a supposedly neutral alien corporation appeared in the same system, where they found the Thunderchild. When Marcus tried to investigate a promising lead on the 5th battlecruiser, they found the hiding place had already been discovered and stripped of its valuable technology. Maya realized the truth with cold certainty. The gardeners knew someone had found the Valiant Dawn. They were watching, tracking, trying to find and eliminate the remaining ships before humanity could use them. The crew held an emergency meeting in the Valiant Dawn's conference room. Sarah spread out a star map showing where they had found ships and where the others might be hidden. We've recovered 4 ships, she said. Captain Rivera hid 12 total. That means 8 are still out there. But every time we move, these aliens get closer to finding us. We barely escaped that asteroid field yesterday, Jackson added. That wasn't a natural collision. Someone tried to kill us and make it look like an accident. Dmitri pulled up a timeline on the main screen. According to Maya's data, the gardeners begin their culling operation in 73 days. Even if we find all 12 ships, we'll only have 300 crew members total. How do we fight an empire that has controlled the galaxy for 50,000 years? The room fell silent. Everyone looked at Maya. She had started this mission, and now they were looking to her for answers she didn't have. Marcus stood up. "We're asking the wrong question," he said. "We can't win a conventional war. We don't have the numbers, the experience, or the time. But we don't need to win a war. We need to expose them." Maya's eyes widened as she understood. The Gardeners operate in secret. That's their power. They manipulate events from the shadows. But if we reveal them to the entire galaxy, their whole system collapses. Marcus finished. Client species rebel. Allied civilizations question their loyalty. The Gardeners lose the secrecy that makes their strategy work. Sarah nodded. But how do we broadcast that kind of message? We'd need access to the main galactic communication hub. That's the most heavily defended location in known space. Then that's where we go, Maya said quietly. We take our 4 ships, we fight our way in, and we broadcast the truth to every corner of the galaxy. Jackson laughed, but there was no humor in it. That's suicide. We're talking about assaulting a station protected by the most advanced defense systems ever built. Captain Rivera and his crew gave up everything to give us this chance, Maya said, standing up. They hid these ships. They gathered this evidence. They waited 200 years for someone to finish what they started. I'm not going to waste that. She looked around the table at her crew. I won't force anyone to come. This mission will probably kill us all. But if we do nothing, humanity gets pruned again. Billions of people die, and no one ever knows why. One by one, the crew members nodded. They were scared, but they were also angry. Angry at being manipulated. Angry at living in a galaxy where ancient aliens decided which species deserved to survive. Angry at all the humans who had died in accidents that were actually murders. We need more ships, Marcus said. 4 battlecruisers aren't enough. We have 70 days. Let's use them to find at least 2 more. Maybe 3, if we're lucky. Then we make our move. The crew dispersed to their stations. Maya remained behind, staring at the star map. 8 more hidden battlecruisers were out there somewhere. The Gardeners were hunting for them. And somewhere, in secret facilities humanity knew nothing about, plagues were being prepared that would kill billions. She had 70 days to find ancient warships, learn how to fight them, and assault the most defended location in the galaxy. Then she had to hold that position long enough to broadcast the truth before Gardener reinforcements arrived and killed them all. Maya smiled grimly. She had never wanted to be a hero. She had just wanted to salvage old ships and live quietly. But sometimes, life had other plans. The hunt for the remaining battlecruisers had begun, and time was running out. 63 days had passed since Maya found the Valiant Dawn. In that time, her crew had located 2 more battlecruisers. The Starbreaker had been hidden inside an abandoned asteroid mining facility, and the Phoenix Rising was concealed beneath the surface of a dead planet. 6 ships, 300 crew members, 7 days until the Gardeners began their culling operation. It wasn't enough. They had failed to find the other 6 battlecruisers. Every lead had turned into a dead end or a trap. The Gardeners were actively hunting them now, no longer bothering to hide their surveillance ships. Maya stood on the bridge of the Valiant Dawn, looking at the assembled fleet through the view screen. 6 powerful warships, all crewed by people who had volunteered to fight an impossible battle. Behind her, Marcus and the senior crew members gathered for their final planning session. We can't wait any longer, Marcus said. In 7 days, the plagues start spreading through human colonies. Millions will die in the first week alone. Sarah pulled up a holographic display of their target. The Central Communications Hub, located in neutral space near the galactic core. It was a massive station, shaped like a wheel with 12 spokes, each spoke containing powerful transmitters that could broadcast signals across the entire galaxy. The hub is protected by automated defense platforms, Sarah explained. Energy shields, missile batteries, and fighter drones. According to our intelligence, the Gardeners installed most of these systems themselves. They use the hub to coordinate all galactic communications. How long do we need to hold the station? Jackson asked. Dmitri worked his calculations. To upload all our evidence and broadcast it to every inhabited system, we need 47 minutes. That includes time to override the security systems and boost the signal strength. 47 minutes, Marcus repeated. Against an enemy that can call in reinforcements from a dozen nearby systems. Maya had been studying Captain Rivera's tactical files for weeks. The old captain had been a brilliant strategist, and his notes contained detailed analyses of Gardner military doctrine. She had found something important. A weakness the Gardeners didn't even know they had. The Gardeners have been using the same military tactics for thousands of years, Maya said. They're powerful, but they're predictable. They rely on overwhelming force and advanced technology. They've never faced an enemy that uses guerrilla tactics or unconventional warfare. She manipulated the holographic display, showing the hub from different angles. We can't match their firepower, so we won't try. Instead, we use their own systems against them. We make them think we're attacking from one direction while we actually attack from another. We turn their automated defenses into weapons that target each other. Sarah leaned forward, studying the plan. It could work, but we'd need perfect timing, and we'd have to sacrifice at least 3 of our ships as decoys. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. 3 ships would draw the hub's defenses away, while the other 3 made the real assault. The crews of those decoy ships probably wouldn't survive. I'll take the Starbreaker as one of the decoys, Jackson said quietly. My crew already volunteered. The Phoenix Rising will be the second, said Captain Torres, a former military officer who commanded that ship. We knew this mission was one way when we signed up. That leaves one more, Marcus said, looking at Maya. The Valiant Dawn should be the command ship for the assault team. You're the best person to upload the data once we breach the hub. Maya shook her head. The Valiant Dawn will be the 3rd decoy. This ship started everything. It's fitting that it should be part of the final sacrifice. Maya. No, Marcus protested. We need you alive. You need the mission to succeed, Maya corrected. I'll command the decoy team. You take the Rising Storm, the Thunder Child, and the Breaking Dawn to make the real assault. Dmitri and Sarah will go with you. They know the systems better than anyone. For a long moment, Marcus just stared at her. Then, he nodded slowly. You're sure about this? I'm sure, Maya said. She looked around at her crew, at the people who had become her family over these desperate weeks. Captain Rivera and his crew gave humanity a chance. Now it's our turn. Even if we die, the truth gets out. The Gardeners lose their secrecy. Other species learn what's been done to them. That's worth everything. The crew spent the next 3 days preparing. They rehearsed the assault plan dozens of times, running simulations until everyone knew their role perfectly. They recorded final messages for loved ones. They made peace with their choices. On the morning of the assault, Maya gathered her fleet at the edge of the hub's sensor range. Through the view screen, she could see the massive station glowing against the darkness of space. Somewhere inside that structure was the key to humanity's freedom. All ships, this is Maya Chen, she broadcast. In a few minutes, we're going to do something crazy. We're going to attack the most defended location in the galaxy with 6 ships and 300 people. The Gardeners think we're weak. They think humans are just another species to be managed and controlled. Today, we show them they're wrong. She paused, thinking of Captain Rivera's note, of the 200 years the Valiant Dawn had waited in darkness. of all the humans who had died, never knowing they were being manipulated. "We're not fighting for ourselves," Maya continued. "We're fighting for every human who died in the gardener's cullings. We're fighting for the future, for the children who deserve to grow up free. We're fighting because someone has to. And it might as well be us. This. Decoy team, are you ready?" "Starbreaker ready," Jackson confirmed. "Phoenix Rising ready," Torres said. Maya took a deep breath. "Valiant Dawn ready. Marcus, the assault is yours. Don't waste our sacrifice." "We won't," Marcus promised. "Good luck, Maya. It's been an honor." "The honor was mine," Maya replied. "All ships, begin the attack. For humanity." The 6 battlecruisers surged forward, their engines blazing. The central communications hub's defense systems came alive, weapons platforms swiveling to track the incoming threats. Maya's 3 decoy ships broke formation, drawing fire and attention. Missiles streaked through space. Energy beams cut through the darkness. The Starbreaker took a direct hit, its shields flaring bright before collapsing. But while the hub's defenses focused on the decoys, Marcus's 3 ships slipped through the chaos. They moved fast and precise, using every trick Maya had taught them. Maya watched them go, knowing she would probably never see the outcome of their mission. The Valiant Dawn shuddered as another missile impacted its hull. Alarms blared. Her crew worked frantically to keep the ship alive just a little longer. On her screen, she saw Marcus's ships reach the hub's docking ports. They had made it through. Now everything depended on whether they could hold the station for 47 minutes. Maya smiled as another explosion rocked her ship. Win or lose, humanity was finally fighting back. And that, she thought, was exactly what Captain Rivera had hoped for. The battle had only just begun. The Valiant Dawn was dying. Fires burned through 3 decks. Life support was failing, and the shields were completely gone. But Maya's sacrifice had worked. Marcus and his assault team had breached the communications hub. Through her damaged communications system, Maya could hear updates from the assault team. They were fighting through the hub's interior, pushing toward the central control room. Dmitri had already begun hacking into the station's systems. "Maya, we're in." Marcus's voice crackled through the static. "Beginning the upload now. 47 minutes and counting." "Copy that," Maya replied, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. The Starbreaker had been destroyed 10 minutes ago. The Phoenix Rising was still fighting, but barely. Another missile struck the Valiant Dawn, and the entire ship lurched sideways. Half the bridge lights went dark. Maya's pilot struggled to keep them moving, dodging the incoming fire as best he could. "Captain, we need to evacuate," her first officer said urgently. "The reactor is becoming unstable." Maya shook her head. "Not yet. We need to give Marcus every second we can." Inside the hub, Marcus and his team were fighting their own battle. Automated security systems had activated, sending combat drones after the intruders. Sarah and her soldiers held the corridor leading to the control room, while Dmitri worked frantically at the main computer terminal. "How long?" Marcus asked, firing his weapon at an approaching drone. 38 minutes remaining," Dmitri said, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "The system is fighting me. These security protocols are incredibly sophisticated. Can you break them?" "I'm human," Dmitri said with a grim smile. "We're good at breaking things we're not supposed to." The minutes crawled by. Outside, the Phoenix Rising finally succumbed to the hub's defenses, its reactor exploding in a brilliant flash. The Valiant Dawn was now alone, its hull covered in scorch marks and holes. Maya's crew had been reduced to half their original number. 20 minutes, Dmitri announced. "The upload is at 62%. Then, something changed. New contacts appeared on Maya's sensors. Ships were arriving. Dozens of them, from multiple directions. Gardner reinforcements had arrived faster than expected. "Marcus, you have incoming," Maya warned. "Gardner fleet. Multiple capital ships. They'll reach the hub in 15 minutes. Marcus cursed. "We need 20 minutes to finish the upload. Dmitri, can you speed this up?" "Not without corrupting the data," Dmitri replied. "We need the full evidence package to be intact. Or nobody will believe it." Maya looked at her remaining crew. They were exhausted, injured, but still at their posts. She made her decision. "Marcus, we're going to ram the Valiant Dawn into the approaching fleet. It'll slow them down. Maybe buy you the time you need." "Maya, no," Marcus protested. "There has to be another way." "There isn't," Maya said calmly. "My crew is already evacuating in escape pods. I'll pilot the ship myself. It's been an honor, Marcus. Finish the mission." She cut the communication before he could argue further. Her crew protested, but Maya ordered them all to the escape pods. One by one, they left, until only Maya remained on the bridge of the dying battlecruiser. She pointed the Valiant Dawn toward the approaching Gardner fleet and pushed the engines to maximum. The old ship, the vessel that had waited 200 years for this moment, surged forward. One last time. Inside the hub, Dmitri's screen showed 89% completion. "Almost there," he muttered. "Come on, come on." Marcus watched through a viewport as the Valiant Dawn collided with the lead Gardner ship. The explosion was massive, a small star being born in the darkness. The blast wave damaged several other Gardner vessels, forcing the fleet to slow down and regroup. "Upload complete," Dmitri shouted. "Broadcasting now." He pressed the final command, and the communications hub's powerful transmitters came alive. Every screen, every communication device, every data terminal in the inhabited galaxy suddenly received the same massive data package. The complete history of Gardner manipulation, video evidence of their culling operations, confessions from captured Gardner agents, technical analysis of their methods, records of dozens of species that had been pruned over thousands of years. All of it, broadcast simultaneously to billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. The reaction was immediate and explosive. On Earth, government officials watched in shock as the evidence played across their screens. On alien worlds that had been Gardner client states for centuries, populations rose in anger. Species that had thought they were alone in being manipulated discovered they were part of a pattern. Within hours, the Gardner's commercial empire began to collapse. Trade agreements were canceled. Client species declared independence. Former allies denounced them publicly. The carefully constructed system of control that had lasted 50,000 years crumbled in a single day. Marcus and his surviving crew fought their way back to their ships and escaped the hub before Gardner reinforcements could capture them. They recovered as many escape pods as they could find, including the ones from the Valiant Dawn. But Maya's pod was not among them. 3 months later, humanity was transformed. The suppressed technologies were being developed openly. Scientists who had disappeared were found in hidden Gardner facilities and freed. The remaining 6 hidden battlecruisers were located and recovered with the help of other liberated species. A new alliance formed, called the Free Species Coalition. 40 different civilizations that had been pruned by the Gardners joined together, sharing technology and knowledge. Humanity, having struck the first blow against the ancient oppressors, became a leading voice in this new alliance. Marcus stood in the memorial hall on Earth, looking at the wall of names. Every person who had died in the assault on the communications hub was listed there. At the top was Maya Chen's name, with a simple inscription. She found the truth and made sure everyone else could too. "She's alive, you know," a voice said behind him. Marcus turned to see an intelligence officer he'd never met before. "What?" "Maya Chen," the officer said. Her escape pod was recovered by a neutral trading vessel 3 days after the battle. She's been in a medical facility recovering from her injuries. She didn't want any attention, so we kept it quiet. But she asked me to tell you that the mission was worth it. Marcus felt tears in his eyes. Where is she? Back where she started, working as a salvage mechanic in the asteroid belt. She says she's done being a hero. Marcus laughed through his tears. That sounded exactly like Maya. 6 months after the battle, the 12 battlecruisers that Captain Rivera had hidden were all recovered. They became the core of humanity's first true deep space fleet, not for conquest, but for protection. The Free Species Coalition used them to patrol trade routes and protect younger civilizations from other would-be manipulators. Maya returned to the Valiant Dawn one final time. They had recovered the wreckage and rebuilt it as a museum. She stood in the captain's quarters, where she had first found Rivera's note. She took out a piece of paper and wrote her own message, placing it next to the original. Captain Rivera, mission accomplished. Humanity is free. We're not anyone's crop anymore. Thank you for believing that someday, someone would finish what you started. The future is ours now, and we're going to make it amazing. She left the museum and returned to her simple life among the asteroids. But across the galaxy, humanity and its new allies were building something unprecedented. A civilization based on cooperation instead of control, freedom instead of manipulation, truth instead of secrets. The Gardeners had ruled for 50,000 years. Their reign had ended not through military conquest, but through the courage of people who refused to accept that humanity was meant to be small. Maya Chen had been just a salvage mechanic, but she had found a forgotten battlecruiser, followed the clues left by a captain from 2 centuries past, and changed the destiny of the entire galaxy. Sometimes, that's all it takes. One person willing to fight. One person willing to believe that things can be better. One person willing to sacrifice everything for the truth. Humanity was unchained, and the stars had never looked brighter.